So we're going to start here. The first race we talked about as a key pickup for Republicans is knocking out Katie Stewart. The Democrats were so afraid, they tried to change the rules to keep you off the ballot. So tell us why this race matters and why you're going to win in House District 112.
Well, first of all, if you've been following the laws that are coming out of Springfield, I don't consider myself a victim, but I do think that I am impacted by sham laws. So, quite frankly, the program was to remove slated candidates from the ballot. Now, that obviously has been placed on hold by a judge earlier this week. I think Katie is extremely vulnerable in this district, and it's not because I'm a special candidate, it's because I think she makes herself vulnerable. If you followed some of the bills that she has passed, with the feminine hygiene products in the school, boys' school bathroom, K through 12, and colleges. If you follow the shared bathroom issue, which now has moved to the Edwardsville High School, where they're redoing the bathroom facilities to have boys and girls share their bathroom facilities, men and girls share that bathroom facilities. People, I think, have just had enough. Our goal is to bring common sense back to our district. The Metro East, we're not the Chicagoland area. We are certainly not this far left progressiveness that we're seeing that's coming from the bills that she has been successful in getting passed into law. So I think, again, they told me right from the beginning when I was asked to run, is that it's a lot of hard work. We're not going to outraise funds. I'm never going to have more money than my Democratic opponent. If I'm fortunate enough to raise $500,000, they'll write her $1 million check. If I raise $1 million, they'll write her a $2 million check. So we have to work smarter and harder, which we will. The St. Louis media market is going to be a trick. If I follow the last couple of election cycles, I know those two candidates, and they were very good women that ran for those positions. And their names were smeared. You see black and white pictures of them on television with St. Louis commercials. And matter of fact, one of the commercials, I remember Jen Cordy, who's been just instrumental in helping me this cycle, and she lives right down the road from me. The nicest woman in the world, but the tagline was that she was a Madigan puppet. It's like she's a Republican. Her opponent had received literally millions of dollars from friends of Mike Madigan, but they paint her as the Madigan puppet. So, although I was a bit surprised that they tried to kick me and others off the ballot, I don't know that I'm going to be surprised when I start seeing things that aren't true about me coming in mailers. And I know it's going to happen, and I'm sure it's going to happen at the St. Louis media market.
I would say this, that for those who don't know you, there's a reason why you were recruited for this race, and your background it matches the district. You fit that district. Maybe let people know why you're such a better fit than Katie Stewart is for House District 112.
Sure. So my background, most of it is in policing. So my entire adult life, I've been a public servant. This is my first opportunity to look at political service. But I've spent 27 years with the Illinois State Police, retiring to become the chief of police in the city of Edwardsville. I worked there for a little over 8 years, and then I was recruited to become the city administrator in the city of Troy, Illinois, which is where I currently work. So public service is a passion of mine. Being able to solve problems, being able to help people. Sometimes you can't solve their problem, and sometimes people just want to know that you made an effort, and they want to know the why. They want you to communicate with them. I believe I'm a good communicator. I believe that if state government would operate like local government, we would all be better off. Unfortunately, state government's not held accountable the way local government is. I'll tell you right now, if somebody's unhappy with my mayor or one of my council members or me, I see them. I see them at the grocery store. I see them at church. They're not afraid to knock on the door to my office to say, hey, here's the issue. We don't have that level of accountability. And I will tell you, with the supermajority that the Democrats have, they have zero accountability. And in my opinion alone, that's why you're seeing so many indictments of political figures, because there's not accountability. There's no accountability. And when you have no accountability, for crying out loud, how embarrassing is it that Mike Madigan, the Speaker of the House, is under federal indictment? That's an embarrassment to the state of Illinois. It's horrible. But there's no accountability for many, many, many years. We've got to get balance back in the House of Representatives. We've got to get balance back in the Senate. These supermajorities are a terrible thing.
When you mentioned that local leadership, I know both Lee and Kyle were mayors of their hometown before now in their current positions. So I'm sure they would echo that same concept. And it's just, if you could bring that level of leadership down to Springfield, my how things would change.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And if you guys have any thoughts to share on that, then we'll continue on with the agenda.
I think Jay raised a good point in that when you're in elected office at the local level, people stop you wherever you go. And it doesn't matter if you're having a good day, a bad day. It doesn't matter if it's 6 in the morning, if it's 12 at night. If there's a problem, they're going to talk to you about it, and it's your job to solve it. And the state also doesn't give cities the ability to punt payments on their pension obligation. We don't have the ability not to pass a budget, past our fiscal deadline, but yet the state gives themselves all of these, I would say, like loose regulations that they kind of play by, they kind of don't, but cities have no choice. So I would always say, hey, April 30th, that was the end of our fiscal year, we had to get Republicans and Democrats together, even if we had to pass something that was unpopular, to get it done, because we had to balance our budget, but the state of Illinois doesn't.
One of the things we've said for a long time is the Republican principles are being put in play in these communities throughout the state by leaders who maybe aren't RRD because you run as nonpartisan, but you're conservative, you're right of center, and the principles are working. If people, they're fleeing Chicago to move out to the suburbs, to move central and southern Illinois, there's a reason for it, because you guys are running these communities in a responsible, conservative way, and it works. That's why people go there.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add was mentioned that bill they put forward to try to keep you and others off the ballot, and at the local level that would have been illegal. We're not allowed to do that. They have this shell bill unethical process in which it was a child welfare bill, I think that they used. A child welfare covering DCFS, which is desperately needing reforms. They got the language out, they turned it into an unethical sham election bill that's effective immediately. You know, if we try to do that at the local level, transparency laws immediately would have been violated. You know, the local state's attorney. But the reason they did that,
I'm sure Kwame Roll would have happily gone after you.
Exactly.
He won't go after corruption in Illinois. Exactly. He would have gone after you for that.
But they know if they'd done it through that process, some of that anger and angst at what they were doing would have had time to maybe build to crescendo and block the bill. Which is why they did it in 24 hours. The governor goes from saying, I haven't read the bill, but I think it's an ethics bill.
Wait, it's an ethics bill?
Yeah, to sign it a couple hours later, you can't run good government like that.
Well, before we close off on this, I want to pass it to Regan. And you talk about bringing local government and ethics and accountability, but you've been incredibly successful in business, and I think bringing that level of accountability down to Springfield is also desperately needed. So I wanted to pass it to you and get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you. I think that we are all good examples of how Illinoisans are ready for regular people to serve in government.
It's okay, you can clap.
My career and professional experience is an educator by training, and then I did own a small franchise business. So to your point about balancing budgets, I mean, when it's your dollars, you know when you have to pause, when you have to stop, when you have to say no, or you can push something to the forward if something else has to fall back. And so I do believe that even in some of these flip districts, we've got regular people running, and it's our responsibility as a Republican Party to support each other, but also, if I can make this one point, is to go into uncomfortable situations. I was telling a story earlier, there was a gentleman who said he was trying to reach the Indian community in the country of India, and he said, I don't get it, they're not coming to our events. We have to go to their events. If we're going to try and grow the party and we're going to try and talk about our platform and say that we are on the right side of things, we have got to start reaching out to an audience that might be slightly uncomfortable for Republicans. I do think that most of the places that I've shown up, if it's in the Black community, if it's in the Hispanic community, will say, thank you for coming. No one has come here before. No one's asked us what we need. And so I do think as a party, especially this year, we have a lot more people paying attention. I hope we'll talk about later, something that was sort of fascinating to me in running in 2022 was all the conversation about how the top of the ticket drags us down. And when you point out the Trump numbers and they're -8 and they're -10, I call BS. I think this state is ready for a Trump win. I think that a lot of us constituents and voters are going to celebrate him at the top of the ticket, and we have an opportunity to take that uncomfortable situation and talk about why Trump is the best choice in November for our state and the country.
All right, so we have the next on our agenda is to talk about any specific races maybe you guys have thoughts on or we just want to highlight. We can break it up by hold races and pickups, or if you guys just want to kind of bring up a race that I know is important to you. I'm sure we got to talk about Kevin Schmidt specifically on hold seats, making sure, especially in this area, we hold on to that district. Do you have thoughts you want to share on maybe some of the candidates that we went through in the presentation?
I share some territory with Judge Joe McGraw, who's running for Congress. I would tell you people in the region are excited about him. He's an incredibly active campaigner. He's a previous judge. He's seen the fentanyl problem up close. He has a lot of expertise on some of the border and crime issues, really strong on border security, and that part resonates. And I think a point you mentioned earlier is important, which is some of the luster of his opponent, who was a weatherman, he was on TV, he was Mr. Nice Guy, everybody loved him. And all of a sudden you have 2 years of seeing how he's voting on things, and his actual record, and some of that luster, some of that honeymoon period goes away. And so I think both elected officials in the region and I think the grassroots are really coalescing behind Judge Joe, and he has a real good shot to take him out. So I think that's, in terms of the congressional races, the one you marked, I think that's a huge target. I think if we do the work we need to in that region to support him, that should be a win.
Yeah. Awesome, I agree wholeheartedly. Any other thoughts?
I border on the map the 91st House District, which is Desi Anderson. She ran for state senate last cycle, and she's running again. She's also a small business owner and a mom and wife, and I think that that's a great opportunity. I know that 3 of us here don't have a race in November, but I'm pretty sure all of us are committed to working around the state. I love that you did highlight the ones that are, according to the data, the best opportunities. So anyone in this room that is nearby or willing to drive an hour or 2, I know they would love your help knocking doors and showing up places and supporting them at a meet and greet or a fundraiser or what may be the case. I will say, I think also in this race, one of the conversations we have had at Doors and Lot is talking to parents. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, when they're coming for our kids, you have an opinion on it. And so I do think that that is a great conversation piece for whomever you might be talking to, and it's our responsibility to talk about the Katie Stuart votes, and how she is opening up, multi-sex bathrooms right here in Edwardsville area and nearby. People are not going to stand for that, but we have to give them a reason to show up and vote about it. If that's going to be your one issue, then please make sure that that is what's driving you to the polls, and we need to look all the way up and down the ticket. I mean, never before now have local races been more important, and I think we are all seeing that when we have a state government that's trying to take away, a lot of our local freedoms. They're forcing mandates down our throat. It's really important. I mean, when I ran for Congress, I knew every judge. Never in my voting lifetime had I known who the judges were or why they were so important. But now we have, the Unsafety Act and those things, and those judges need to keep our criminals where they belong. And that means they need our support, and we need to know we have the right elected officials there. But, so Desi Anderson is nearby to me. Having run in the 13th, Madison and St. Clair County have a special place in my heart. It's happy for me to see a lot of familiar friends and faces here who are supporters. So thank you for staying in that. But Kevin Schmidt, I think, is a must. They are going to pour millions of dollars into that race. Now, he won last time without millions of dollars, although I think Lauren Underwood was a little asleep at the wheel, and she's fired up now in her party. LaToya, excuse me. Lauren Underwood is Congress, I apologize.
We could knock her out too.
Yeah, well, that would be a dream. LaToya Greenwood, is fierce. I don't think she's ever acted like she's not state representative. And so any efforts we can do, Kevin is working his tail off. He shows up in these uncomfortable places. I give him a lot of credit. I follow him on Facebook. It's another thing you might do is try and follow some of these candidates on Facebook, find out where they are, how you can be helpful. But whatever is your particular project, it all matters.
Well, you mentioned the agenda, whether it's Sharon Chung in 91 or some of these incumbents on the Democratic side, the bills they voted for. I mean, some of the things put out by the House and Senate Republicans lately have been excellent, highlighting how crazy the agenda is by the far left, that healthcare costs in this state. if you are a tax-paying citizen in this state, and then what you pay for your health care, they have a graphic that shows on the left side how many things you pay for to cover your health care. But if you're a non-citizen in Illinois, all free. Thanks to J.B. Pritzker and Sharon Chung and Katie Stewart and all these Democrats. I mean, every issue that matters to the voters of the state, cost of living is out of control. Immigration, they're frustrated by immigration, and there's Pritzker and the Democrats saying, hey, come here, we got free money for you. Meanwhile, veterans are still asleep on the street, and black communities are desperate for investment, and young people need support and education, but we're giving free money away to non-citizens. The voters are frustrated by these things. And so, voters, I think you're right, voters have never been more open to our message as Republicans in this state. Any other races that you guys want to highlight, or do we do a pretty good job covering?
Well, I would, not necessarily a race, but something I want to share with you. So when I first decided I was going to put my name in the hat and run for this office, I was talking with our state's attorney, Tom Hain. And Tom mentioned something to me that really has resonated. And he said, you know, government should exist. And Tom is our state's attorney. And he deals with the criminal element day in and day out. And sometimes I'm sure he gets very frustrated with kind of the way their hands are tied. But he said, Jay, he said, we should be punishing criminals and we should be empowering taxpayers. And he said, somewhere along the line, we got that turned around. We're punishing the taxpayers and we're empowering our criminals.
Well, wait, hold on.
We need to
According to the
stop.
Democrats, it's not criminals anymore, isn't it? Like justice-impacted individuals? You can't say criminal.
Justice impacted individuals.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And then on crime, you talk about issues that show just how extreme the Democrats have gotten in this state. You talk to the average, they call themselves liberal nowadays, and they say the Democratic Party left me. I mean, you look at in Illinois, just in the last week, Kim Foxx, Cook County State's attorney, came out and said she's no longer going to prosecute gun crimes from traffic stops. So here we have the left, who's so anti-gun, but if they have a traffic stop and they find out you have an illegal gun, Kim Foxx is like, nah, not gonna prosecute that. I mean, the far left in the state has absolutely become so pro-criminal and anti-victim. The Lake County State's attorney, who's a Democrat, who Mary Cole's going to try to knock off if anybody's up there in that region, he refuses to allow his staff to use the word victim. They are so anti-victim, they won't even use the word. On some of these issues, Democrats over and over prove just how extreme they've become.
And I think the tax issue is unifying as well. I mean, I just got my property tax bill. I mean, I will be representing up in the Bloomington Normal area. They just voted to now tax the entire county to cover the airport. So those have been an increase there as well. And the governor, even though I'm pretty sure the budget didn't even come out today yet, although they're trying to convene by the holiday on Monday. So in 48 hours, we're going to pass the largest budget in state history. Yeah, thousands of pages. But you know, it's just something as simple as saying, look, we're 800 million short. However, he's got a $1 billion illegal alien package. So it's one item. We could just line strike one item and then potentially have a balanced budget. But you know, people have to start saying these things out loud. And you know, any race that we're going to flip, we don't have time for not telling the truth. You know, it is not really a party thing. It's just telling the truth about where our taxpayer dollars are going and how we're mismanaging them.
I just want to kind of circle it back to all these races can be won if we take it directly to the voters at their door to talk about issues. So in the city of Quincy, we do run partisan at the local level. And I defeated a 16-year incumbent for city council. When we did that, we flipped the council for the first time in 68 years. And when I won mayor of the city of Quincy in 2013, it was the first time mayor had been won since 1981. And we did that not because we were outspent, which is a familiar thing that we have here. Nobody really thought that we had a chance, but we knocked on doors. We did it pretty much every night of the week, and we made sure we were talking about the issues that people cared about.
Well, you mentioned issues. Let's transition right into that since it's next on our agenda. What issues are you seeing really work at doorsteps with everyday voters, those working families we need to reach to win these elections? What are you seeing be really successful with the voters to win them to our side, especially swing voters, right? We're going to the general election. We got to win these swing voters to our side. What issues are really resonating for the voters?
I think the top issue I saw, and I come from a very rural district, parts of 12 counties, but I think it goes even into some of my bigger population areas like Peoria, which I represent, or will be representing a part of next year, is the immigration issue. And and the scarcity of resources, and the idea that in our state, our governor is welcoming people who aren't even citizens or often illegal immigrants, and they're getting resources that other segments of society have been told no for years. That we don't have enough resources, there's not enough money, we can't afford this. And all of a sudden you turn around and the state spent $2 billion plus on stuff, and there's a lot of groups who aren't normally conservative or Republican going, wait a minute, were you lying to us the whole time? Yes, they were.
In the city of Chicago, right? The far left city of Chicago that has actual socialists who call themselves socialists serving on the council, and yet they are flipped out at Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker for that exact reason. In wards that Republicans haven't won in ever, and yet they're so angry they're not voting for Democrats.
Right.
So you're totally right.
I think the other one I'd mentioned, I owned Jimmy John franchises and some local shops for a long time, is Sticker Shock. What, if you go through a drive-through, even McDonald's, which is supposedly infamous for its cheap food, and you've got a couple kids and you're leaving the drive-through going, how much did this cost? Or certainly the grocery bills, it's making things real for people who are not Republicans or not Democrats, are literally non-voters or not engaged, and they're starting to wake up a little and say, wait a minute, why is this happening? And we need to be there with the message to explain, here's why it's happening. Here's how to stop it.
Well, that's the key part. I love what Regan said earlier and what you just said, which is in the data, we just went over, if you were with us between 1 and 3, we went over some data on what's happening with voters, and the voter turnout amongst Hispanics is at an all-time low, and amongst blacks is almost at an all-time low. It's the lowest in the last few decades. So the good news is they're not voting for Democrats because they're frustrated. The bad news is they're not yet voting for Republicans because we haven't gone in those rooms, we haven't engaged them. And so there's an opening here, especially among Hispanics. I have poll after poll that show that on issues, Hispanics want to vote for us. Asians want to vote for us, especially of Indian descent. They want to vote for us, but we're not in the room. They haven't heard our message, so it's absolutely correct.
Well, I'll share with you that as I was knocking doors, and Reagan hit the nail right on the head, people, Republican, Democrat, Independent, they're concerned about their kids. And I will tell you, in my district, I think it's a winnable issue, this whole bathroom issue where men and girls, boys and girls share a bathroom together. It's not been received very well. And so that's a big chunk of my district, is the city of Edwardsville, and then Glen Corbett also sends to the Edwardsville School District. To the point where I've had individuals from Granite City call me and ask, are we being forced to integrate our bathrooms in the schools? Because we've been told we're going to have to do the same thing. Our school board said we have to do it. And you're not being forced to do that. But I think it's an issue that resonates with people because they want to protect their kids. I look at it beyond that to the expense of it. I break everything down. I'm a fiscal conservative. I break everything down to the cost. And the name change that we talked about with the criminal element, to say, well, you're not a criminal offender anymore. Well, how many hundreds of thousands of documents are now going to be changed for that name change? And how many hundreds of thousands of dollars is that going to change or cost across so many different agencies? So
we don't have money to support the mental health system in the state that needs more support. We're like the 49th out of 50 states in funding for that, but we haven't enough money to change a word in a document because we might hurt criminals' feelings.
We don't want to hurt their feelings, of course, which makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I would think the underlying issue that I've come across when I'm knocking on doors is that there's a feeling that if you live in a rural community, the deck is stacked against you in Illinois. And it could be you're a small business owner and the state puts all these regulations on you and you just don't have the manpower that a large business has to do. You are a young family coming out and the cost of housing has just increased astronomically. You're in your 50s and you've worked hard your whole life and you paid off your college debt and now people are forgiving college debt. And working with small units of government, the governor in the state of Illinois comes out with all these grants, but then there's all these stipulations that small communities just can't tap into. And so the underlying issue in our rural communities is that they just feel like no matter where they are in life, the priority is Chicago and not in our rural communities.
And you couldn't be more right, and that actually carries even up to the suburbs. So a study was done on where tax dollars come in and then where they go back. And so the suburbs of Chicago is actually the worst. Where for every dollar, if you live in the suburbs, for every dollar you send to the state, you only get 60 cents back. And so rural communities are getting screwed. I can say that because I'm not an elected official. Rural communities are getting screwed by the state of Illinois. Suburban communities are getting screwed by the state of Illinois. And this is where all of our targeted races are. And so voters, if you're a taxpayer in the state in one way or another, or dozens of ways, you are getting it by the state. They are not supporting you. And that's under the leadership of Pritzker and the Democrats.
Yeah, I think a lot of the similar issues, I mean, we did polling, we had a primary, we did polling. I mean, 1 and 2 are economy and inflation, so they're sort of synonymous. And then the second was immigration after that. So, that's a winning issue. I mean, from Trump on down, it's, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And the answer is always no. Unless you're a very powerful or political elite or, a big corporation. But I do think that what we have to impress on people when we're seeing them at doors or we're seeing them out in the communities, I mean, I'm a people person, so I talk to you if I'm in the grocery line or, wherever, I may be waiting at the gas pump, whomever. And I think we just have to tell people that they've got to get over the, does my vote even matter at this point? I think we're finding that a lot here in Illinois. I've had conversations for 20 minutes with a small business owner, we're like-minded, can you get out and vote for me? And then maybe he'll pick up some other votes on the rest of the ticket and they just say, why does it even matter? We can't win here in Illinois, but we can and we must. And I do think that just having those more intimate conversations are how we're going to be able to continue to move the needle and really show the Democrats that we're coming for you. I mean, I will go and talk in flip districts to independents or swing voters because we are on the right side of things.
Well, and to that point, when you show the contrast with how extreme the left is, it certainly shows them how mainstream Republican principles are. So that's our next topic. Anyone who wants to start can kick us off. How do we make people aware, and maybe it's just those individual conversations, how do we make the voters of this state aware of just how extreme Democrats are? I'll give you, I don't have the data in front of me for the numbers, but we did research after the last round of elections. And what it showed was, despite Pritzker spending, $50, $100 million trying to convince voters that Republicans are extreme, and us not really having the resources to fight back. When you asked the voters, it was split 50-50 on whether they thought Republicans or Democrats were more extreme. There's a hidden sort of narrative there that, yes, Pritzker, the media, Democrats have really tried to paint us as extreme, and yet the voters, yeah, they think we're extreme, but they also think the other side is extreme. And we haven't even yet told them how extreme the other side is. So the question really is, how do we make them aware of just how they're the threat to democracy, trying to keep Jay off the ballot, how they are the ones who are making our communities less safe with the crime issue, how they're making it less affordable to live in the state by raising healthcare costs, by raising your income taxes, though I think we finally beat that back. But they were going to, Pritzker in his budget, he was trying to bribe Democrats to vote for his tax hike, which would raise taxes on every Illinoisan who files with the standard exemption. The media didn't cover it, but they lowered the standard exemption in your taxes, which means if you use the standard exemption, you would have had to pay more taxes in the state of Illinois. And he tried to sneak that through, though, and I think we beat it. But Democrats are the ones who have this extreme agenda. How do we let the voters know about that?
Well, I think we've all talked about the fact, the importance of actually having those one-on-one conversations. Nothing is going to be more powerful, I don't think, than knocking on that door or going to that Rotary Club meeting, talking to 15 people, talking to 30 people, talking to 50 people, talking one-on-one with individuals. We push a lot out with social media. You mentioned the kicking me off the ballot. That backfired so badly between social media and radio that, we were able to generate somewhere between 400 and 500 signatures in 4 hours in a drive-through petition just to get on the ballot. It was taking me 2 hours every night after work, knocking on doors to get 15 signatures. And here on a Thursday morning, I got cars stacked up 4 and 5 deep because people are of the mindset of, hey, this doesn't sound right, this isn't fair. Again, I'm not going to have the money to go up on St. Louis Media Market. I'm not going to have television ads, but I will have money to go on radio. I will have the ability to push stuff out through social media. I am hopeful that I'll get more and more followers, and then as they share the information that I share, that they will see, the information that's being put out. And I'm telling you, I've joked about it, but it's no joking matter. Some of the things, like in the last couple of months, they're making it easy for me. They're doing such crazy things with that supermajority pushing things through that, the common person scratches their head and says, That doesn't make sense. That doesn't seem fundamentally fair. That certainly doesn't help me. I wonder what that cost. And all we're doing is reminding them of what they're doing.
I would say too, you know, talking about the truth. I mean, for example, I was talking with a candidate, Lisa Smith. She's in Decatur. She's trying to flip the seat for incumbent Sue Shear, who came in with Mike Madigan. Has been there a long time. She's a steady Eddie vote for them. She claims to be an educator, but she was not in favor of the Invest in Kids Act, which is a tax credit scholarship. You know, we spend tens of $20,000 per student in Illinois, and our reading and math scores are pathetic. You know, for me, I said to her, why don't you just put up on a billboard, you know, someone sitting in traffic or maybe on the side of a bus, is your kid one of the lucky 3 in 100 that can read? I mean, that's what they're signing up for. That's what the Democrats are pushing. I mean, you just have to have a simple message. We get so frustrated Democrats control the messaging. I mean, we're a pro-abortion state. You know, that state is now, or that issue is now relegated to the states, but, you know, they call us the extremists. You know, I don't want taxpayer-funded abortion. I don't want abortion until the 9th month or even after birth. You know, we are not the extremists. I mean, I met a gentleman who was specifically focused on that issue, and he had some pretty intense billboards he was gonna put up, you know, at congested traffic areas and things. But I think we just have to remind people that we are not the extremists, and some of those dollars can be put to those efforts.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned an abortion. I mean, it's not our party who wants to let your 14-year-old daughter get an abortion without you even knowing about it. So you talk about being extremists on an issue, and we shared some polling that we just did on how there is common sense middle ground, that even pro-life conservative candidates, there were messages that moderates, even liberals, were very favorable towards, because if you look at the data, while they are pro-abortion, 100%, I'm all for abortion, then you say, well, for how long? They're actually only pro-abortion until viability. And so there's openings here where even independents and Democrats say, no, I do want some restrictions. So we're more the party of the mainstream on even that issue, yet Democrats try to paint us as the crazies.
I'd echo what was mentioned about social media. No matter where you are in the state, you can help somebody's algorithms by liking and commenting on posts. Certainly when something outrageous happens, like what happened to you, everybody in that district should know what happened and make it backfire. It just shows what's possible. You mentioned those hundreds and hundreds of petition signatures. That was always possible through the campaign if people got off their seats. And it took them getting outraged for that to happen. And we should be outraged all the time by what's happening in Illinois. And that's something where you can reach across all 8+ travel hours of the state. And, you know, down here we can help a district in the suburbs by just commenting, liking, getting those algorithms moving. I'd echo what was said about door knocking. You know, Desi Anderson was mentioned earlier. Right above her, Sally Owens is challenging that Senate seat. And I think the two of them, which all of Desi's territory is Sally's as well, share a little bit with Judge Joe somewhere in Peoria County. So you have the opportunity where somebody could go there for a weekend and hit 3 competitive races every door they're touching. And that's before you even look at Peoria County has a competitive county-wide race on a couple of them. So that's a lot of impact in local races at a time. But I'd close my thoughts about door knocking with this. I mentioned I cover parts of 12 counties. There are some counties where they're really good at filling PC slots. And there's some counties I go in and they have 20% of the PC slots. And of those 20%, how many are there to chat? How many are actually doing lid drops or door knocking? If you're a candidate in a battleground district and you walk in, you have to build a team from the ground up if the counties aren't doing that. And it's impossible to make that lift in a battleground district when the incumbent Democrat is coming in with fundraising knowledge and PCs and grassroots already working for them and contacts with the local officials and the media already knows them. You're never going to win that way. So if we at the grassroots level aren't filling PC slots, getting the county organized, and being ready for the moment, then the moment's going to pass us by.
Well, and especially for candidates, you talk about limited time. I mean, how much time you guys have put in campaigning? There's only so many hours in the day, and the sun goes down and you can't knock anymore. And so you're really relying on the Republicans, like people in this room, especially in the general election. They got to get Republicans to the ballot box so you can focus on swing voters and persuading Democrats to come our way. And so if you don't have a Republican organization in the county, now the candidate has to go and get the Republicans out and also go win swing voters. And so, yeah, absolutely, we need help from the grassroots, and we've got some counties and a lot of great people in the room who are working their butts off, and we need more of it for sure. As we finish off this topic, I don't know if Collin, if you had thoughts on just the extremism we see from the far left in the state, which is just the whole Democratic Party now.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to go to your next question or not. So I think we need to get back sometimes to painting what's positive about voting for Republicans. Paint a picture of what it would be like if we are governing. I grew up with Contract with America. How many people remember that? And everybody could say, if I elect this member of Congress, this is what this member of Congress can do for me. This is what their agenda is. The House Republicans 4 years ago had a Reimagine Illinois plan, which was pretty simple. We're going to end corruption. We're going to support public safety. We're going to expand opportunities. Who can't get behind a message like that? And so, yes, we do need to point out the extremism of our opponents, but we also need to be positive in what it's going to be like when Republicans can govern, because we have to be a party that can show that we can govern.
Well, and that's what the data has shown clearly, is that voters want governing leaders. Blue states, red states, they don't care what party you're with if you're a responsible adult in the room who can govern. And so, yeah, we can point out how bad the other side is, but you're absolutely right. If voters don't know how we're going to lead, how could they trust us to take the reins of government? So I think it's a great point. All right, let's move on to the next topic here of what do we need to do to win? As candidates, maybe as precinct committeemen, as organizational leaders like the people that are in the room, to win in November, what is it going to take? What do we need to do more of? I know there's a lot, so maybe pick a couple things that each of you think is going to be important, but if we're going to win in November, what do you think we need to really push forward to make this happen?
I think we've touched a lot of it. Going into the uncomfortable rooms was mentioned. Because of gerrymandering and because the richest politician in America is our governor, and he spends hundreds of millions on this, we have two major things stacked against us from the get-go. But because of that gerrymandering, there are areas that have gone for generations without a strong Republican or conservative voice messaging to them. So imagine, if you turn 18, 20, you've never really paid into politics, and in the next 20 years of your life, there aren't any serious or effective candidates in leadership around you messaging why conservative or Republican values are important. And then we're turning around and looking at these people in their 30s, 40s, 50s and saying, why don't you get it? Well, we should look back on ourselves and say, why have they never been exposed to the message? And we can blame the gerrymandering and we can blame the propaganda from the governor, but at the end of the day, if we're only in our safe little areas that we've been gerrymandered into, we're not willing to get aggressive on the borders and charge in and go into the uncomfortable spots. If you don't message to them, you're never going to win. And so I think that part can't be overstated. You got to knock on doors, you got to have the conversations, you got to be respectful to the people who disagree with you, because some of them may have never even heard the value of the message from the other side, right? And not to get all biblical, but you're not going to go into a part of the world and find a lot of Christians if there's been no missionary there. That's just not how it works, right? And so I think that messaging and going to the uncomfortable places that we've been gerrymandered away from, not only will help us win local elections, get competitive at the state level, but then every 4 years when the constitutional statewide offices come around, we have a head start. And if we can take back the governor's mansion, now we have a crack at the maps. And if we can ever get the maps balanced, Illinois is a completely different state.
Well, and as Regan said earlier, you got to go to them. This assumption they're going to come to your business meeting. Listen, even your Republican precinct committeemen don't want to go to your business meeting. Let's be honest, they're boring most of the time, unless you guys make them fun. But most of the time, it's early morning, we're tired. So what average voter, what new person, like a Hispanic or African American who's never voted Republican, they're not coming to that meeting. You've got to go to them. So to reiterate your great point, we've got to go to them and speak to them, but you got to put in that work.
Well, I don't think I can say it better than he just did. I mean, the bottom line is we do have to be in the uncomfortable places. We do have to have those conversations, and we do have to, we're never going to have more money for messaging. So we're just going to have to work harder, plain and simple.
One thing that we haven't touched on is I think we have to do more to engage our younger generation. So how many people in the room here today are in the 20s or 30s? We have a handful of folks. I was recruited with a flyer at John Wood Community College to get active in the Bush Gore campaign. And then after College Republicans, it was, hey, we don't have a Young Republicans chapter in Adams County. And then it was, hey, we have a candidate for Congress, would you put up some yard signs and would you knock on doors? And all of a sudden now you have a candidate who has been an alderman, a state rep, or a state rep candidate. And so when I look across the room, it's how can we get the next generation engaged? Because we're going to need them to help us knock on doors to put up yard signs, because we're all getting older. And those yard signs are going to get a little heavier. So we're going to need all the help we can get, all the elbow grease.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say that we need to follow the national platform as well. I mean, we look at the RNC partnering up with Laura Trump. I mean, they're talking about registering voters. I myself became a deputy registrar. In my other life, I serve as board president for a local nonprofit that's a food pantry. Guess what? If you want a free food box in Decatur, you got to show an ID. So they already are well equipped to, potentially register to vote if they have another qualifying document on them at the time. They're sitting and waiting in line. Obviously can't wear my name tag and I have to be nonpartisan, but are you registered to vote? If not, let me help you. That kind of thing. I do echo your sentiments about the young people. They're hungry and they're ready, and I heard someone say, we can't show up on college campuses. Oh yes we can. And we can have a table just as much as, the next person. You can wear your, are you registered to vote? Are you tired of government handouts? How's your post-graduation, home ownership looking? Bleak, right? They know what's in store for them should we get Republican control back in this country and not in this state as well. But just to close the loop on, we've got to go places. When we recognize and we see, like in Chicago, black aldermen and black community members are saying, where are you, Republicans? Our eyes have been opened. We see the migrants getting everything that we're not, or we've been told we don't have the resources for it. When they look up and wake up, we have to be there. We have to continue to show up. And so being able to support your candidates, follow their Facebook pages, encourage people to vote, put up a yard sign. I mean, somebody said to me, oh, well, I put your sign in my garage, but you don't have a challenger in November, so I probably don't need to put it back, right? I said, oh no, I need you to put it back because if somebody that I've built a relationship knows, oh, Regan's on the ballot, I need to go and vote in November, they're gonna vote up and down the rest of the ticket, hopefully as well. So we can't just quit. Republicans, we're saying right now, oh, it's summer, no one's paying attention. Oh, people are paying attention when they know their energy costs are up, they're paying for their groceries and their gas in the car. So we have to take every opportunity we can to engage people and tell them, in November it's gonna matter and we need you to show up. I mean, I've been at doors and I have literally looked people in the eye and said, can I count on your vote? Quiet, Okay, yes you can, or oh, I'm still deciding. It's okay if you say you're still deciding to me. That means at least I know you're thinking about it, and I certainly applaud people that do their research. Their biggest fear is a well-informed electorate. So, the more we can continue to tell people what our messaging is, who our candidates are, and why it matters, I think we have a good opportunity in November.
Well, I think that's the key, is politics has got to be year-round for us. I know to the people in the room, you guys are here because you're the hardest working part of our party, and thank you for that. But you look at a large state like Illinois with 102 counties, as you said, there maybe are some counties that aren't as strong as some of the others. I gotta tell you what the Democrats do. Now they can do this because they pay their people, I get it, they have patronage, we don't. But they're 24/7, they're year-round. While we're taking a break for the summer because it's nice out and we want to spend time with the kids, they're out working, they're knocking on doors, they're working community festivals, they're registering voters. There's a study done after the last presidential election where they saw for the RNC and DNC which ones had field offices in states. RNC shut all theirs down after election day, DNC kept theirs going year-round. Right? These elections have to be year-round for us. Yes, the next 6 months are important. We've got to get our Republicans elected, but then we can't stop after that because guess what? Next election, governor's race. We can take back the governor's mansion. You cannot stop. This is not a part-time job. All right, final. Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to say one other thing. We need to get our churches engaged. I heard you speak, about missionaries. I see a local pastor from my home territory. We have to have our pastors speaking the truth in our churches, and they need to have an active role. I mean, this country was founded, on Christianity, and it's okay. to say we draw hard line places. You know, when you talk about the left and their progressive ideals, I mean, we need our pastors to be telling the truth from the pulpit, and we definitely need to encourage them to be engaged, whether it's just with your own local church or pastor or anyone that's in your neighborhood, or asking fellow community members, you know, is that being talked about in your church? That's a great opportunity for us.
Well, to that point, for those who were with us this afternoon, we went over some data on our religious people who self-describe as religious. Are they with us as Republicans? And there was a time not that long ago when they were. You know, we used to be able to go in churches and just do voter registration drives and turnout, because we knew if you went to church, you'd vote Republican. Guess what? In Illinois, we were actually losing religious voters. Christians, Catholics, not only are they not coming out to vote as much as they should, but when they do, we're losing right now those demographics. So work has to be done, not just to get them registered, but as you said, we actually have to persuade them. That time, it used to be we could just rely on that religious vote. Back in the Bush days when I started, they were with us, but that is not the case today. So don't assume that just because somebody's Christian or Catholic that they happen to be with us as Republicans and conservatives. You got to go in and actually persuade and engage them, and then of course get them out to vote. So I think it's a really important. Last topic, then of course we'll let everybody go, is for people in the room. We've kind of touched on it, but let's hammer it home for our last topic. What can they do, whether they're in your district or not in your district? I guess, good idea, Kyle. We'll start with Jay. What can they do to help you, even if they live 3 hours away maybe, or for some of us 5 hours away? How can we help in these key districts? What's your advice?
Well, it was mentioned earlier, if you'll follow our social media and like and share the posts that we're putting out, that helps build the network of people that are seeing the information that we're trying to share. That to me is key. Obviously, we're going to be doing fundraisers. If you can attend fundraisers, if you are in the area, if you live within the district or close by, and you're willing to go out to our webpage and sign up to volunteer, you can help knock doors, you can help put signs together. I've had people tell me, hey, I'm really uncomfortable talking to people, but I'll help you any way I can. I said, great, we're going to be making signs at our house. We're going to be putting those blasted A-frames in those corrugated signs. We're not keeping it square up. And we need some talented folks to help us do that. So anything you can do to volunteer in that manner, those every little bit helps. And like I said, knocking doors gives you an opportunity to have those one-on-one conversations. If you can do it for 2 or 3 hours one day, every little bit helps.
Every candidate's bane of their existence are those wires for those signs.
And I'd add, I mentioned the social media, throw a nice comment on there. Because if you want to boost their algorithm, sharing, if you live 2 hours away, might not really hit their target demographic, but putting a comment on increases their algorithm wherever they are.
But just for those who may not know, we young people understand what we're saying here with that. But so the algorithm means the more you get activity on your posts, the more Facebook, for instance, or Instagram will show your posts to other people. Their idea behind it is the more popular post, the more they want to show it to their users, so their users come back and stay on their platforms. Kind of makes sense. So you can trick the algorithm. The more you like those candidates' posts, comment on it, share it, you're boosting that activity score. So now when Lee or Jay make their next post, Facebook thinks, ooh, this is popular. Let's show more people this post. So even if you live 5 hours away, just that simple act of being active on their social media could make a big impact, because maybe now that their algorithm score is higher, now more voters in that district will see their next post. So it's a simple way you can help.
Right, absolutely. If people came out of this convention and everybody set their alarm at 4 p.m. to go off and say, I'm going to hit these, and everybody went and liked and commented on Judge O's and your race every day, you'd single-handedly change their algorithm, just like that, from wherever you are in the world. And I would echo what was mentioned earlier, you got to be out there not just during campaign season. It is inauthentic if you're only knocking on doors and seeing them and not going to see them the rest of the year. If you're not, at the local fish fry, if you're not talking to folks, if you're not present, if you're only in there when you want their votes, it will make a difference. And the last thing I'll mention is there are a lot of apathetic voters in Illinois who've gotten fed up with the state, who've gotten fed up with politics. I'll give you a quick story. I was out door knocking. I was going off my walk list. I go by a house, there's a big Trump flag flying in the wind. There's stuff in the windows. He has a Trump yard sign and he's not on my list. And I'm thinking, this is a primary. How is he not on my list? And so my tendency is whenever I see political yard signs or a Trump flag or a military symbol, I'm an Army engineer, I will go to knock that house anyway, even if it's on my list. So I go up to the house, and I knock, and he comes out, and we start talking, and he's passionate about Trump, and he's passionate about what needs to change. And turns out, he's not a voter. He doesn't vote. He thinks his vote doesn't matter anyway. And I'm sitting here a little stunned, and I got to tell you, it didn't just happen to me that one time over the course of the campaign, right? And so it got me reflecting. I think voter turnout was about 20% in my area. When, I did some research on it when Barack Obama ran in his first race. Illinois had one of the highest turnouts they had in a while. It was over 40%. More than double, and I got to thinking, man, if we could turn out another 5-8% of our side, because we're angry, because the Democrats did something awful, and we're going to run and get petitions signed and knock on doors, that would single-handedly change every one of these competitive races you just had.
Well, on top of it, even if you don't live in a competitive district, voters, just like all humans, are creatures of habit. If you get them to vote regularly, they will keep voting regularly. So even if you're not in a competitive district today, you might be in one in 2 years, and heck, you are going to be, because we're going to retake the governor's mansion, so the whole state's going to be in play. So create those good habits for your voters today, even if you're not in a competitive district.
Yes,
so great advice.
And what you said is perfect. We're creatures of habit. Somebody who's never voted before, never gone and done it before, it's uncomfortable, they probably won't do it this cycle. They probably won't do it next cycle. But if you manage to get them to vote once and then they're comfortable, again, going back to my restaurant days, my goal is to get them in once. Because once they came to my Jimmy John's once, they might come every month or every 2 weeks, but now I've gotten onto their little restaurant rhythm. And so the goal is to get them in there trying. They're like, hey, I kind of like this, right? You got to get them into it once. And that's why sampling works so well. And when you go in grocery stores, you just get it in their mouth once. They might think about it.
Free smells, right? Jimmy John's.
Yeah, exactly, free smells. So get them out to vote that first time. Those high schoolers, those college students, it might seem like a lot of energy, but kind of like in the business world, once you make them a customer, they might be your customer for life. Once you get them to be a Republican voter, they might be a voter for the next 30, 40 years.
I just want to close with a saying that we all know, that all politics is local. And so while we need to be thinking about the November elections and we need to work as hard as we can, what people probably don't realize is that candidate petitions for local offices, your park boards, your school boards, your city councils, your mayors, all start a month earlier now. And they are probably going to file before the November election is done. And so that is how we change government from within. We make sure that we affect things at the local level. And so be thinking about that as you're thinking about your plan to affect change this November.
Yeah, just think about who you can encourage to maybe put their name on the ballot in some of these local positions. It might be the next Kyle Moore, who is a state representative in 5-10 years. But that's incredibly important, because the impact you can have on people in your community is most at the local level. And so, petitions get passed in just a couple months. My field staff is here, and they hate that you mentioned that, because you're not wrong. I think it's the end of July, you start passing petitions for local office. We're not even done with the current election yet. So, if you're out there, if you know people that want to run locally, get them hooked up with the local party and get them ready to put their name on the ballot. I love that.
I would say we got to get people out to vote. The Illinois party, obviously we were down in the other room listening to the state central committeeman. Their big theme is bank your vote. If I could see a show of hands here just to prove my point, how many of you will only vote on election day? Raise your hand. Don't be sad, me too. Okay, most places I've gone, it's 80% of the room, okay? But we lose if we only show up and vote on election day. We've seen that from Democrats. They take what you want out of COVID, vote by mail. That's a whole other panel, right? But early voting and vote by mail, we have got to get people engaged in that process. I mean, I've met many people who are like, oh, I vote early. We like to travel. It's just what I do. I knock it out. I get it done. I knocked the door of a husband and wife that had a handicap ramp. It was like 2 days before the election. She's like, oh, we can't get out. I said, oh, I wish you would have voted by mail. She said, oh, me too. Like, okay, but I made a note in my system that come, past the primary, I was going to circle back to that house and take a form with me. I mean, I'm a deputy registrar, so I have those, paperwork's in my bag as well, but we've got to be able to encourage people. If if you travel, whatever, we kind of got to get that bad taste out of our mouth that, we only are Republicans and we go and vote on election day because we don't like the ballot boxes and the XYZ, whatever. But if we're going to win, we really have to start knowing what kind of votes we have in advance. And it's true what they said, as being a candidate, we spend a lot of dollars on a voter contact. So if you've already got somebody's vote in and they've already returned it in, that information is readily available in our county clerks for us. So we can find out, we don't have to mail that piece, we don't have to spend a stamp, XYZ. I think that's really gonna help us in November, especially since we're starting earlier now. And I just read a graphic on post-election day steps from the State Board of Election. Does anyone follow their Facebook page? They don't allow comments. Let me just start there. But it's unbelievable how many actions and how many steps happen after election day. We keep counting. It's unbelievable to me. But if we can get our votes in earlier, all the better. And as you said, thank you to everyone that's in this room. I know we're preaching to the choir because you guys come to a convention, you show up, you've worked on campaigns, but we got to try and grow our networks as well. So if you can get somebody, maybe they're homebound, maybe they'd write a few postcards to 10 people in their network and just remind them of the local candidates, or that we really could stand to use their vote. Maybe they can make some phone calls, XYZ. Everybody has a role they can play. Maybe you can donate $20. I had a wonderful gentleman come to me and he shook my hand and in it was $20 and he said, I know it's not a full tank of gas anymore, but I know you're working hard and you're traveling the state and this is how I'd like to contribute. So it all matters. And so thank you for the work that you are doing, the work that you will do, and let's bring it home in November.
To close up the conversation on things that you can do, just a couple things I thought of as you guys were going through. You mentioned phone calls. You don't have to live in the district to be able to help make phone calls to voters in that district. And I got to tell you, because we don't get human interaction anymore in 2024, those phone calls go better than ever. People actually want to speak to a real human. And so if you want to help your favorite candidate by making some phone calls or texting, texting is a great resource to be able to reach out to voters, and a lot of these candidates will have systems that will allow you to, where you don't have to text from your phone, where you can text back and forth with voters, and they'll actually respond to that. And so there's a lot of ways you can reach voters, even if you live too far away to knock on doors, or maybe you can't walk out there and knock on doors, maybe you got bad knees or something. And so there's ways you can help that don't require maybe that door knocking. Of course, we need door knockers, but if you can't, there's a lot of other ways you can help. All right. We're going to close down the discussion. If we could, one final thank you to our 4 Republican candidates here who are either in or going to be in office very soon. Final thing I'll ask as we close this down, you've got cards in front of you. Give us a look. Our organizations, we pulled together some of this training. Check us out. We want to help Republicans win in Illinois. No infomercial, so that's all I'm going to say. But let's connect. Let's talk about how we can win in November. And then we're going to turn this day red. Thank you, everybody.